Hi, so this is a video where I'm going to be looking at my all-time favorite Marvel character. And if you've not guessed by now with what we're looking at here, it's Deathlock. So Deathlock came out at the beginning in the mid-70s. It was created by Rich Buckler and it's created by Rich Buckler with assists by Doug Moore and Campbell Manslow. Rich Butler also did the artwork in the initial series as well, which what I like about I think the reason why I like Deathlock, especially when it first came out, it feels like he's displaced. It feels like he doesn't belong in the Marvel universe. It feels much more like, for example, a 2000 AD character or an English sci-fi character. It's got a lot of grit to it, what you didn't get in Marvel Comics, especially Marvel Comics or DC Comics in the 70s. This is before the grim and dark mid 80s to early 90s. Um, and just really ignited something in me when I read it. I didn't read this initially. What I did get attracted to, first of all, was when he appeared in these three issues of Captain America, which I had years ago, but I've obviously growing up in that, like, you get rid of loads of stuff. And I bought them recently when I went to MegaCon this year. So this is Captain America 286, 287, 288. It's a time displaced Cap tale. And so he meets up with Deathlock with gorgeous, gorgeous artwork by Mike Zeck. And this just opened up something in me. I was going, oh my God, I've never heard of this character before. And I kind of did a deep dive. And there used to be a shop back in the late 70s, early 80s in Blackburn. I used to live in Blackburn, and there used to be this shop in the market which was called a swap shop. And for 2 pence, you could take a comic in and swap it for another comic. And I did manage to get hold of a Deathlock comic through that. And later on, I got some issues as well when I moved to Manchester in the early 80s. Um, oh yeah, I cheated before. I had it on Zoom because this book is one that you can't get in America. It's just available in the UK from Panini, and it's what they call a Marvel Pocketbook. So I was deceiving you a bit before. That's how big it is. So don't think DC Compact Comics are a new thing for us in the UK. We're used to these type of books as well. So yes, so this got me really addicted to this character when I saw him in Captain America. So when I saw these at the Comic Con this year, it just ignited something in me. I wanted to reacquaint myself with this character who I've always had a love for, but I've read sporadically over the decades. So I got these, and that just triggered something in me in the past few months. But I've got to get the rest of the stuff where Deathlock has appeared. So obviously, if you see my review shows, you know that I'm reading and enjoying Red Hulk, and the main reason for that is because Deathlock and Machine Man are in there, two characters from the 70s who I absolutely adore. Um, so that reading Red Hulk and reading these made me want to get the rest of the stuff. So I got this recently, which compiles the first run of Deathlock from, I think it was Tales to Astonish, or Marvel Premier one of the two. Astonishing Tales, there we go. So really, really pleased with that. But I remembered when I was in the early 90s, there was a prestige format I used to have. So I thought I'd check on eBay. And it was a four-parter. It was going for astronomical prices, but I managed to find it for a decent price from a dealer. So I got the nicest incarnation. So this one is Luther Manning. This one is a different Deathlock. Same body, but they transplant this person's brain into the body. This is Michael Collins, whose brain gets transplanted, which is this guy here. And initially it had this is what bugs me with Marvel all through the decades with Marvel, the way they jump around with artists even on prestige format series like this. So Jackson, good artist. So Jackson Goose is on the first two issues. Then you have a brilliant artist coming on, but very jarring in style because they're very different. You've got then Dennis Cowan coming on, who ends up becoming like the primary Deathlock artist for this time period, and you'll see what I mean in a bit. But yeah, I love this story. It had a very Terminator kind of flavour to this one. So again, with the Terminator vibes of the machines taken over, had that kind of feel to it. Where there's this company who's using technology for evil purposes. So this is a great little thriller in 4 parts. It's to try and get this in the collector's edition. You're talking about paying about £50 or £60. I got this for about, I think I got it for about £10 for the 4 of them. But I've looked elsewhere, and normally you can't get it for less than £15 for the 4 of them. But yeah, so this was a great start to this series, and it was so popular in the 90s that it spun off into its own ongoing series, which ran for about 36, 37 issues or something like that. So I am going to try and get hold of them, but in the meantime, what I did get was this big boy, Deathlock: The Souls of Cyberfolk. So Dennis Cohen on the cover, and this compiles the annual #1 and issues 1 to 15. I forgot to mention as well, what made this series so good was not just Dennis Cohen on the artwork, but the writers on it as well. So the writers were Dwayne McDuffie, rest in peace, and Gregory Wright, who were two of the geniuses, along with Dennis Cohen, behind the Milestone range of titles. So they had a really forward-thinking sensibility in their writing. So this integrates this version of Deathlock more into the Marvel Universe. And then after this series wrapped up, there was a gap for a bit, and we'll move on to what came out after that. So from there, we then jump to around about 1999-2000, and another iteration of Deathlock comes on board. And this was when Marvel did a range of titles, what they called something like, I think it's like the Digitech Age or something like that. So characters were like a sci-fi science fiction bent. So this ran for 11 issues, and it was written by Joe Casey. Majority of it was by Leonardo Manco, but this collected edition, it has stories as well from the X-Men and that lot, where Deathlock, this version of Deathlock, comes about, which has ties to S.H.I.E.L.D., which obviously was reflected. This version is kind of reflected in the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series that came out. But then the series came on with Joe Casey and Leonardo Manco. Excellent artwork. So again, a different version of Deathlock is featured here. Joe Casey is a very, very underrated writer. So from there, you come on to another Deathlock, which is this one here, which is Deathlock the Demolisher. This came out in 2009 as part of the Marvel Knights range of titles, which was slowly wrapping up around about this time. So this is by Charlie Huston and Lan Medina. And again, another different type of Deathlock. So this one is a soldier called Mike Travers. So this is what I kind of like about Deathlock as well. I've got a fondness for the original, for the OG, and I've also got a fondness for one that came out in 1990, because that's the one that I really fell in love with. It's the way they can keep on reinventing the lore of Deathlock whilst not losing any of the core story beats from who Deathlock is. Where he's this basically tin pot soldier who breaks rank, and it's the monster trying to become a man kind of storyline. And this is what I mean. It seems to bring out the best in all the writers who handle them, and it just seems to elevate it from what could be a standard Marvel comic into something a bit more, always with a slightly more mature, grown-up range. Now there has been another series that's come out a few years after this, artwork by Mike Richardson. I think I got his name wrong. I think I can't remember who wrote it, but it ran for 10 issues. I'm trying to get hold of that, so I will do a video on that. And then recently, late last year, I think it was. It might have been earlier this year. There was a Deathlock one shot. Ignore the price. I got it for £2.50. And this was featuring some of the teams that handled them in the past, but focusing on the original Deathlock, Luther Manning, the OG. And I do recommend getting this because this, especially be reading Red Hulk, because this ties in to the Red Hulk storyline. It's like the gateway to the start of that storyline, but a really nice tribute. But it does make me want, especially with reading Red Hulk, which is finishing in issue 10, which really pisses me off because that's what Marvel does all the time now. It makes me want to have an ongoing Deathlock series again. But I do recommend that. So yeah, my favourite Marvel character of all time, well, is Deathlock. There's just something really unique and special. It does feel like it's a 2000 AD character that's just been dropped in the middle of the Marvel universe, and he sticks out like a sore thumb because there's no other character like him. So yeah, I don't know if it's interesting for you, but it was for me. Bye.